of its solidarity. We can go over live now to Laura Blumenfeld, Middle East analyst and former US State Department senior policy advisor. We do appreciate you being with us on a very busy night tonight, Laura. Firstly, if we could just begin by getting your assessment to the events that we've seen unfolding over the past 5 or 6 hours now.
Well, look, President Biden said don't. The Iranians did, and the Americans do have to do something in response. And listening to the world leaders condemning this, I'm feeling some deja vu from Saddam Hussein's invasion of Kuwait. Biden believes in allies and international coalitions, and this just might be his opportunity to bring, some regional coalition to push back against Iran. It's the fight that Israel was looking for. I think they never imagined they'd be fighting Hamas in Gaza. It's always been about Iran.
Tell us more about that in terms of that appetite. Of course, this shadow war's been going on for a very long time. Now we're seeing it play out in the open. Do you believe then that Prime Minister Netanyahu wants to engage from what you're saying?
Well, I think a little bit of escalation might be just what Netanyahu is looking for to save, first of all, his own political career, but also Israel's reputation. He learned how to street fight, Netanyahu, from his older brother Yoni, who some people may recall died rescuing Israeli hostages in 1976 in Entebbe. His older brother said to him, look, there are many things you need to do in a street fight, but he who delivers the first blow wins. On October 7th, Israel absorbed that first blow, and ever since then, they've been trying to play catch up. I think with the assassination on April 1st of the Iranian generals, Netanyahu is trying to kind of take the initiative. And so now with this counterstrike, I don't think Netanyahu believes in an eye for an eye. It's always been 2 eyes for an eye.
And so what would that look like then, in your opinion, your assessment? How do you think the retaliation would unfold?
Well, he's been absolutely focused on and obsessed, some might say, with Iran's nuclear capabilities. So, if he has the capability with American, look, it's got to be coordinated with the United States. I think that was very clear. They didn't give forewarning to the United States when they took out the Iranian generals in Damascus. So they will have to sort of rely on America, first of all, for backing and also just for the green light. But I think he would like to take his shot. It's a legacy issue for Netanyahu. He's clearly not on a path toward normalization with Saudi Arabia, which for a while was going to be his kind of historic accomplishment. So what will it be? For Netanyahu has always been about Iran and its nuclear program.
And so on that question, how would you characterize the Biden administration's policy towards Iran? And do you think there is the potential for a significant change here?
Look, I think what Iran was doing, frankly, wasn't even about a retaliation. I think for them, this was their Al-Aqsa flood, right? And the floodwaters were rising. It was the word that came out of the Biden camp tonight was disproportionate. Clearly, Iran's response was disproportionate. So what were they doing? I think what they were finally doing was stepping up and giving their kind of support to Hamas that Hamas was looking for on October 7th. And I think what they're expecting is, yes, retaliation from Israel. And that's when Hezbollah steps in. So this kind of, ring of fire that Israel's been talking about, or octopus with its tentacles surrounding the country, is finally being activated. It's just 6 months later.
So how dangerous then does this conflict get if we see Israel, the United States and Hezbollah potentially engaging?
Look, it's a showdown years in coming. But what I'm hearing tonight, again, from the kind of response of world leaders, if everybody gets on the same page and pushing back against Iran, this isn't only about Al-Aqsa flood for Iran. It's also about regional leadership. They're trying to say to countries like Saudi Arabia, let us lead rather than the United States. They're just trying to shove out the United States, what they've been trying to do for years now, right? Push out the United States, UK, and Western influence from the region and say we are actually the supreme power here. So it depends on America's ability to pull together this coalition of moderate Arab states and European leaders and whoever else will come on board, the same way they did to push back on Saddam Hussein years ago.
Is there a way in which, though, it can be crisis averted in a diplomatic way compared to what we saw with Saddam Hussein?
Absolutely. I mean, we're going to be playing diplomatic shoots and escalation military ladders for the next, several weeks, I think, certainly while Israel is determining what their response is going to be. I don't think it'll be immediate. So it'll give some time, perhaps, to create some kind of, like I said, if there's enough pressure diplomatically. But eventually, again, turning back to the Saddam Hussein playbook, there was a military showdown in the end. It took a show of force.
I mean, if we take a look at the events unfolding, I mean, we know that tomorrow there will be a meeting of the United Nations Security Council in New York, something that Israel itself had requested. We understand that that's going to be taking place around 4 p.m. local time, so Eastern time in the United States. Can that exert any pressure?
Absolutely. Look, it's going to exert pressure, but will be determinative? I don't think so. There is going to be a response. Israel, they have no choice. It's not in their playbook not to respond. The question is, how far will they go and when will it end? And that's really just to be determined.
And of course, the question, to what extent is the United States invested in this alongside this, going beyond diplomatic means? I mean, do you think that if there was one response from Israel, that it would be able to call all of this off definitively if there was that response from Israel and it was strong enough?
I think there'll be a response from Israel, but I do think the United States was going to feel some kind of need to respond. After all, again, this is, President Biden's election year, and anything that he does, not only politically, but also just for his own leadership in the world, he said don't, they did. Now the United States needs to do something to respond to that. They were very, very clear about their red lines. As Secretary Blinken has said again and again, superpowers don't bluff. We are the superpower in the region, and so there need to be consequences.
Laura Blumenfeld, former State Department Senior Policy Advisor on Israeli-Palestinian policy. Really good to get your insights tonight. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you.
Now, earlier